Good day, everyone. We welcome back to ERUA Podcast, episode number 4. Today, we decided to dedicate an episode on ERUA's research clusters. What is the idea behind the research clusters? How were they set up? And more importantly, what is their future? Today, we will be talking with Professor Christian Bankov, who is professor in semiotics at New Bulgarian University, who has been one of the leading figures in developing NBU's research clusters for sure, but also the general idea related to ERUA research clusters as a whole. So without any further ado, I will, of course, give the chance of Professor Bankov to basically say something about himself as well. So jumping right into it. Professor Bankov, as I said, you have been involved into the development of research clusters. But let's start with something more general. What have you been engaged with in academia? How did you come upon ERUA and specifically the idea of research clusters?
Hello, everyone. Hello, Mr. Zhukov. I'm very happy to participate to this podcast. Uh, I've been involved in academia from more than 30 years, uh, excluding my studies, just professionally as a teacher and as a researcher. So main focus is semiotics. However, during all these years, I've been developing a lot of interdisciplinary research. Um, my major interests were in establishing relations with international communities of scholars. I've been very active in the International Association for Semiotic Studies and in various other important projects. That's why probably I was chosen to represent New Bulgarian University in ERUA to what concerns the motion of scientific research, capacity building, management, and all other issues which are behind the idea of the clusters.
What is actually behind the idea of ERUA research clusters? What do you think was the driving force, and what do you expect to come of it in future?
Now, one of the particular features of the research communities in the way they existed ever since uh, is, or rather it was, their closeness. So we have experienced a lot of, let's say, uh, academic history where specialization was the main thing, the most pursued, let's say, characteristic, the profundity of the scientific research, the total independence of the professors, of the chairs. Uh, there was, I mean, for the affirmation and the survival of the scientific inquiry for long times, specialization and closeness were necessary. They were strategic thing. However, in the recent decades, a lot of transformations came in society at large, of the reconsideration of the role of academia, of, let's say, the whole industry of knowledge and the so-called knowledge society. And this things pushed academia to adapt to a completely new reality, which includes breaking of the closeness of the research communities, especially in social sciences and humanities. I have to stress, because in other fields, in the so-called STEM disciplines, this was not so. I mean, the things stay in a different way, and I would not comment them for the moment. So, how to break the illness of this research groups, this closed. Okay, the policy in the European higher education has pushed a lot about that, open to interdisciplinary collaborative research projects to bring, I mean, ideas from outside to open this research for the benefit of the society. All this came with digital transformation, with information society, with so-called knowledge society. And now in ERUA, the idea of clusters came as one new phase in implementing the effort to uh, encourage collaboration between discipline and between universities. This is how the research cooperation entered since the first ERUA 1, as a strategic goal. And there was a lot of, let's say, important and useful things achieved with the first stage of ERUA, and let's say logical continuation of what started was this already very mature and brave step to establish a common composed by researchers from various disciplines and from various universities, uh, research units, which should break a lot of, let's say, previously established closeness.
Okay, so I guess that's what makes the clusters unique um, as a network, the fact that we're trying to break existing boundaries. But can you walk us through the typical composition of a cluster? How many universities? Are there external partners? What's going on with these clusters?
I was involved from the very beginning when all these rules were not established, and we were supposed to figure out uh, from scratches what clusters would be. So the working group established the necessity of minimum two, but actually in practice, minimum three university involved. Have uh, interdisciplinary composition. This is another requirement to form a cluster. You need this more partners, more disciplines, and variety in the level of, let's say, career growth. I mean, the cluster should include necessarily early career researchers and should include also some more experienced senior researchers or at least established figures and leading researchers in their universities. So the as you can see, it was an ambitious thing to uh, let's say presuppose such various composition of the clusters, and the topic of research also was in a way, we tried to be as flexible as possible, but still the recommendation is that these clusters, their research focus should, in one way or another, develop the five topics, the five areas of interest, which are already initially included in the project. So this was more or less the call for clusters.
We've I've seen on the composition of clusters that you put a lot of emphasis on early career researchers, not only, established researchers. Can you elaborate a bit more on that? How are you planning to involve them? What will be their role? How the clusters will benefit from this?
Well, it's a recommendation, and I must say, for what we have seen until now, that the benefit is mutual, and this is the idea. So early career researchers, of course, they're very privileged in the whole ERUA, let's say, conception, but in the cluster issue, they are particularly, how to say, flattered and how to say, invited by all, because we expect fresh ideas from the early career researchers. We expect them to be the driving force, to be those who travel most of the cluster members, those who bring the fresher, let's say, connection with what is at stake in our, let's say, external social reality, which, let's say, for the old generation professors, being, let's say, very updated and constantly updating themselves with the current issues in, let's say, extra university, extra academic reality was not a priority. And composing research clusters, one of the ideas that they are open to the external world, and actually the early career researchers are supposed to be the main promoters of this link, combining this with the expertise, with the research skills which come from the more experienced researchers.
Great. What do you think was, what would you say was the biggest challenge that you faced in developing this idea around the research clusters?
Well, let's say that we imagined before the launch that the biggest challenge will be how to make researchers in being interested and breaking all these pre-established, let's say, schemes of close research. And we were surprised, and actually the biggest challenge turned out to be the biggest success, that there was big interest and many applications, expectedly many. And this, as we will see, also changed a bit the idea of the funding and of the let's say, future development of the clusters. But the very important thing was that probably for the first time in ERUA, at least this side of ERUA, which is known to me, for the first time there was an active involvement initiative by people who were not under contract with ERUA, who were completely, let's say, estranged. But when the news of the cluster was open, actually we received many applications. And as you know, there were, I think, 24 applications for clusters and 20 were approved. So 20 is a quite big number. And now the challenge went to next level. But the first level of change, make people interested in clusters, make people curious to unite their efforts of research with colleagues from other universities and from other disciplines. This was, let's say, a very positive beginning.
So you were talking about the amount of clusters approved, but is this number set? Will there be new calls for new research clusters? Can currently people from academia, set up on the road to establish a cluster, and what will that take? What is the process, if you can walk us through it?
Certainly, there will be a next call, and the clusters are supposed to be something sustainable. So they have to continue to exist even after the ERUA 2, let's say, alliance is over. And for the way they departed, I think we can believe this will um, happen. There will be new calls, of course, but probably in the next call, the criteria will be tighter. So probably a lower number of clusters will be approved with the next call, because a too big number of clusters become very difficult to manage, to satisfy with the resources available for ERUA, and to, I mean, avoiding overlapping of topics, because this already exists in a way.
Um, okay, you're talking about resources. Is there any available funding to these research clusters? Can they apply on their own? What type of projects are you expecting to move forward within this framework?
Yeah, this is exactly the case. Initially, when clusters were announced and when we're not, let's say, expecting a big adhesion, uh, there was an implicit promise of internal funding that ERUA will, although research is not supposed to be funded within ERUA, still there were funds for mobility and for other activities. After we received so many requests and so many projects were, so many clusters were approved, then it turned out that we have to stress on the fact that actually the clusters are only a first step. The clusters are an invitation. We invite scholars to get together to see eventually 1 or 2 times, but the main focus after the cluster issue started is more and more to fund with small seed funding the capacity of these groups to apply for bigger European funds. So nowadays, this is the main thing in clusters. Clusters are not funded research in itself. They are the premise for collecting the best, let's say, uh, experts and teams from so many different universities, from so many different disciplines, and to establish the best configurations, the most competitive in order to go further. The future of the clusters are the projects which will derive, which will uh, be applied, and hopefully we will get funding for them. But the beginning is very promising. The interest was there. Now there will be a great big cluster members gathering in the next SOCIN conference in Macerata in September. And there probably we will have kind of a mature picture of what the clusters are supposed to be. We will gather there, we will exchange ideas there, we will see the essence of the research of the clusters, and most of all, we will see to what outcomes this can bring.
Now, let's jump into it a bit. Europe is currently facing a number of challenges. You raised the main topic areas that these clusters have been unified around. But maybe you can tell us a bit more on what impact are you expecting in addressing these challenges, based on the projects that you hope to develop.
Well, impact is the key notion of the whole thing. I mean, whole rule. We need to export the academic expertise outside of academia for the benefit of the local community, for the regional structures, for policymakers, for civil society, for the democratic and inclusive society. All these priorities of EU policies are, let's say, codified inside ERUA, and research clusters are probably the most important part of all this because there is the academic engine in action, the capacity of research expertise, getting problems and solving them with the people trained to do this, to get deep into the problems, but always with the idea that these results, this impact should be measurable, should be tangible, and should not be, let's say, just pretended in a kind of report. No, the clusters, if they work as their conception was, they should exercise impact and okay, now we have this Quara initiative. So we enter a coalition for considering the uniqueness of each research effort and its result only from the point of view of the impact and not relying too much on the quantitative measurements by Scopus indexing, age indexes, and this kind of stuff. So, what will be the impact of the clusters? Hopefully, this will be something real, something which the let's say development of ERUA will bring to understand and to establish a new approach of measurement of the impact. So yes, impact is not only something, let's say, put into the project, but it is also a work in progress. So let's see what the real measurement of impact will be. But the research clusters will be the avant-garde of this process, I imagine.
Sounds good. How do you think clusters will evolve in the future? Do you see them upgraded into something else, or the interdisciplinary part of it will remain the focus?
Well, I see already, at least in the cluster in which I'm involved, that probably there will be an evolving composition because some of the members have not been very frequent to the meetings, and now when approaches time to present some contribution. So on the other hand, the topic of the clusters attract new members, so clusters are open to change their composition, and this is already um, an aspect of the clusters which make them flexible and adaptable to the new realities. But as I told you, the clusters major, let's say, expectation is to win further funding in the various opportunities which EU and other funding organizations provide. Also, the national research funding might be addressed, other extra-European, but anyway, the research clusters should represent winning uh, researchers which, thanks to the cluster, understand how to get the best of each of them and hopefully to, of course, with the whole research support efforts of ERUA to create a very competitive application. So I see them as something which will grow in, let's say, the ways established by the funding organizations.
What do you think the future then
Mhm.
of ERUA holds for the research clusters to wrap things up?
Well, mm, EU priorities change, of course, and I imagine that the new clusters, the new calls will be adapted to the new. For instance, now the digital societal resistance emerged as a very relevant topic, which in a way develops what it was already within the five areas of interest of ERUA. Certainly, the artificial intelligence brings, how to say, transformation in every sector. So it concerns ERUA's future, the cluster's future. So although some of them apparently are not directly uh, uh, oriented towards artificial intelligence, it is unavoidable that this will be one of the common, let's say, one of the commons for the future of the clusters. Also, I hope that they will impact also the study programs and why not getting some, let's say, benefits from the content of the study programs in our universities, from the um, let's say, indirect capacity building for the whole academic structure to benefit from what inside the clusters will going on. So there will be a multi-purpose, let's say, units of, let's say, united researchers from various universities, from various disciplines. But this is the future, I would say, of the academic research, what concerns also humanities, social sciences, and humanities and arts. And I'm quite optimistic.
Sounds this way. If you have to now say something as a conclusion to make, early career researchers or more of your colleagues to engage into this type of activity, or maybe create new clusters, what would that be?
Well, we noticed something, at least at New Bulgaria University, that anyway, those scholars and group which were already pre-ERUA internationally oriented and collaboratively oriented, they joined the initiatives. But there is a lot of, let's say, research capacity which is not, how to say, encouraged and motivated enough to join the big, let's say, common research effort. So certainly this will be the target. And if I could address an appeal and formulate it well, it will be rather for those who have not yet joined and who are in a way trying to isolate themselves, because such course exist, and they are very welcome. And I think the benefits for those who are already inside the clusters, and hopefully if some project is won, and hopefully the information office of ERUA will make a good, let's say, information campaign about this. This will be really decisive from, how to say, move to encourage these people to join the common effort. Then, if we call them clusters or not, the important thing is that the culture of inter-university and interdisciplinary collaboration is already established. This culture is the utmost product and uh, reward of all what we are doing now.
Great. Well, thank you, Professor Bankov, for joining us even while you are not in Europe. So much appreciated. Thank you all for watching the episode 4 of ERUA Podcast, which was dedicated to ERUA Research Clusters. Hopefully, we will be looking into the first result really, really soon. So thanks once again to everyone. Stay tuned for more episodes of ERUA Podcast, and keep on watching.